quiet, the stuff bubbles up. We didn't realize that the whole time that it was really already there, unconsciously running us. When we come to meditation, you are 50% there when you just show up to sit and be still. Isn't that great to know? And why is that? Because not only are we physically driven by so many to-dos, of course, we have to be responsible. There's things we have to take care of. But you probably noticed that in the mind, oh my goodness, is that a noisy place? Sometimes people call it the monkey mind because it jumps from one tree to the other and it doesn't want to settle. And then what happens is we know that the brain, the mind, is then running the nervous system. And the nervous system sends out feeders to all the organs and feeds them. And what is it feeding them? So just know that this is normal, that this is part of our human experience, and acknowledge it, accept it as part of the whole. But there's so much more. That's just one little piece of the pie. But it takes a practice and a process over time. And when you come to this practice of mindfulness and meditation, one of the most important things is knowing, number one, that you're already that you seek. That which your heart is seeking is already there. It's just covered. It's been forgotten. So we go on this adventure. And it's about mastering our attention, but doing it not in a straining way, but in a relaxing way. Being kind and compassionate to ourselves as we go on this adventure of awakening to this stillness, to this kingdom within, to our divinity. This is the path of least resistance. Ask yourselves, am I willing to let go of the need to worry, to fix, to control, of a belief? Do I really know? Or did somebody just tell me that? Have I experienced it to be true? Am I in tune enough to myself, to my gut, to trust it? So these are some of the things when we come to meditation. When you sit, physically, the brain, you may become aware of these things, but there are techniques that you can use to put your attention on something else instead. However, it must be pleasurable. The brain doesn't accept anything that's not. So we have found over time, through the millenniums, that other people have discovered, and they have shared their experiences through what we call the Upanishads and the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And they're just threads of truth that people shared with others that eventually got written down. So kind of picture this for just a second. No TVs, no internets, no phones. People are living in nature. It's kind of quiet. They're eating off the land, so their bodies are pretty attuned. And they have more quiet time. Meditation is a very natural process of becoming more aware of something than just what's out here. So they found themselves closing their eyes, and just like saints who were devotional and would be praying, they would be literally lifted up, their spines, and they could feel the energy moving. You know those halos that you see above their head? That was the awakening of higher states of consciousness in the brain. Now, we're going to fast forward to today. We now have the technology to show that these things seers and mystics and saints talked about were real. It just wasn't some, what's that all about? I can't kind of wrap my head around it. I can't hold it in my hands. So today I'd like to share with you the steps of climbing that stairway to heaven. And before I do that, let me talk for just a moment on what mindfulness and meditation is. You've probably seen a lot of magazines and articles on mindfulness. How many people? Let me see. Okay. How many people years ago saw a lot on the front of, I think it was Time or Newsweek, meditation in the mainstream? Maybe you've seen it in the papers. Okay. There's always articles on meditation in the New York Times. Why? We have enough people now that are ready. They're seeking. Also, we've become so stressed and so out of tune that you may have heard about all the closet meditators in corporate America that have come out and said, oh, this has saved my life. It has now become acceptable. And what is meditation? It is simply the effortless flow of your attention to an object or an ideal. Now notice I said effortless. Flow, but it's uninterrupted of your attention. When we sit to meditate, all we're doing is arranging the conditions to allow everything to calm down. This talk. And physically we get relaxed. Mentally we experience a greater sense of clarity, and also the emotions settle. So the first step is to physically be still. And then we'll be doing a meditation that I'll share with you. How to exactly support that uninterrupted flow over time. Mindfulness is been brought into our awareness through Jon Kabat-Zinn, who was Buddhist practices, and this is also just another form of meditation. And the great gift that he is emphasizing is the moment-to-moment awareness of what we may refer to as the presence within us. That in each and every moment there is nothing to seek. That everything your heart desires and everything you need is right here, right now. So when we allow ourselves to, whatever he has a practice, whatever is happening, whether it's fear or worry, there's a saying, just notice it, allow it, accept that it's there. Because what we resist persists. And we call this the neuroplasticity of non-resistance. Neuroplastic means, guess what? The brain changes. You can change it all. You can change it all from the inside out. Isn't that wonderful to know? But we have to be willing to give it a try. So what Jon Kabat-Zinn suggests with the mindfulness is you just sit with it and you use your breath. the breath being the key, it is the bridge between our thoughts and our physical body. And that becomes a tool. So, climbing the staircase to heaven. Remember, if you were here for Dana's talk, and she spoke on yoga and the Yoga Sutras, the Eightfold Path. She spoke of the yamas and the niyamas. There's Eightfold Path means that there are 8 steps to take. Okay, and as you go through these processes one at a time, with loving kindness, to the best of your ability, in that day, in that moment. The first one's really that self-restraints, or what we call self-discipline. Now, all of us know that we know what we're supposed to be doing and what we're not supposed to be doing. Truthfulness, harmlessness, be kind to yourself, be kind to everyone. Purity, cleanliness. So those are the positive observances that we do. So these would just be prototype stairway.
That keeps happening to me. I'm sliding off that stairway almost every day.
Isn't it the truth? Isn't it the truth? And what do? We laugh, we smile, we go, oh, but at least I know where I'm going. Right? At least I know where I'm going. And I just pick myself up and go back on there. That is part of the observances, the positive going forth to the goal. Staying focused, not allowing anything to distract you, left or right. No matter what other people say or do, follow your gut, follow your heart, follow your truth. And let this path, let this stairway carry you on an adventure to a goal that's beyond anything that you could ever imagine. So the next step in this 8-limb path, it's also known as Raja Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. Don't ask me why we have so many names for the same thing. Just call it the Stairway to Heaven to Liberation and Oneness, okay? And you already know it. So now we come up to posture. Okay, meditation posture is upright, stable, comfortable. And Hatha Yoga, that Dana so skillfully shares with us, is a practice to balance the energies in the body, the sun and the moon, the ha and the tha, so that we'll flow in this central pathway. So when you go to walk up this stairway, it's much easier because you're steady. You're not leaning to the left or leaning to the right. It's just flowing here. Very, very simply put. Okay. I guess we need tape, Carol. Carol's going to help me make one that will. She's a graphics artist. So now we come to the breath, also known as pranayama. Sanskrit word, all it means is prana is your life energy, your chi, your ki. It means to breathe in. And yama means to extend it. It's not control. It's allowing it to flow. And yes, we do have techniques to allow things to flow. For example, you know, garden hose, you turn it on, you go, you start watering the flowers, and no water's coming out, and you know you've turned it on. So you follow it back and you go, there's a creak in the hose. Oh. So you just straighten it out. So there are practices and things we need to do to arrange conditions to allow for the flow that's already there. That's the key. That's we let go of the control and effortlessly relax into it. But the breath is the bridge that will calm the body and clear the mind. And we'll be doing that. Oops, that goes here. Sense withdrawal, pachaharya. What this means is When you go to meditate, you close your eyes because you're not looking out there. You're bringing all your attention in here so we're not as distracted. And literally what happens usually during the day, what are we doing? Brain, nervous system, everything's going out here. Okay. In meditation, we do just the opposite. We're reversing it back up the spine, back up to the brain, to here, the frontal lobe, which has to do with our executive functions and higher brain connections. So when we sit to meditate, the reason why it's suggested that you lift your gaze up so slightly here is for that purpose. It will help you. It will help you. I liken it to being in Atlanta with all that traffic, and all of a sudden I can put on my Superwoman cape and jump up to the top, or take an elevator, up to the top of the building, and all that craziness down there, all those thoughts and that entanglement, you're aware of it, but you're above it. So that's why we connect our attention here. And it will pull us away from normal mental chatter. It will slow it down. Then we start to concentrate. Mastery of attention. Oh boy, what do they say? Something like 9 seconds, or I've heard several things. How long we can hold our attention on one thing? It's not for very long. So that's a practice. That's a practice. And I can tell you, of almost 30 years of practice, when I began this, when I first Hatha yoga class, I kept saying to myself, this lady is so slow. I wish she'd hurry up. And so I was like a cat on a hot tin roof, right? Little did I know that I would be teaching it. Because it does help to refine your brain and nervous system. This is actually what the Stairway to Heaven is. It is a refinement of your brain and nervous system through steps of a foundation of right moral living, ethic codes, joyfully, with purpose, a balanced life. That goes hand in hand with your meditation practice. So in the moment, we always want to bring the presences in and be kind and truthful and actually live it wherever we are. So those would be the beginnings. Then when we sit, you're like an antenna. Now you can receive the correct signals of the presence, and you can also transmit them effortlessly. It just happens. When those thoughts come in, we use the breath to focus there. We've withdrawn our attention back in. We're able to start to concentrate a little better than before. And then pretty soon, we are effortlessly flowing, uninterrupted in meditation to our breath or our word phrase or whatever our goal is. And Herbert Benson has shown, Dr. Herbert Benson, first doctor to bring in meditation to the public, he found that if people have a focus, their devotional nature, and it's a God according to their understanding, they'll stick with it more. Because they have a surrendered seeking. They can let go of all the worries and control and just say, show me, I'm here. I let go. I open to receive. And all of your attention effortlessly flows like a magnet to that point. So this is what we talk about climbing the staircase, and this will eventually refine the brain and nervous system. Because when you are meditating, what happens is that you're literally creating new pathways in your brain. Instead of being in the old rut, being controlled by old thoughts and feelings, you're just saying, well, yeah, you're there. I mean, but you know what? I'm making a choice today. I'm going to go over here. No, I need to clean out the closet. I need to weed the garden. I'm just going to go over here. And I'm going to do it with joy and a sense of curious, affectionate adventure as we go through this step and process. So that's the 8 steps here. Now, there's also a path of awakening through these levels of consciousness. You know, Jesus said it, you know, every culture through history has a form of meditation. And you can remember Jesus saying he prayed and meditated. He totally surrendered all of his attention effortlessly with devotion to the Father. And he then realized, the Father and I are one. It's not me and the Father. One. No separation. We call this pure consciousness, total clarity, no interference of anything. It's our wholeness. It's pure. It's complete in every way. So when we look at it from a state of consciousness, we go first. We start at the bottom, unconscious. Well, you could be in a coma, but maybe you're sleeping or you're dreaming. Okay, so we'll start there. Then there's the tricky subconscious. This is the usual driver. Right? I missed one. We have conscious, right now you're awake, right? You're thinking, you're here, we're discussing things. You go around your ordinary life and do your thing. All right. I'm going to back this up. Unconscious, subconscious, then we become conscious. But this is the problem. We're just not aware that